Hello Chums, and welcome to Taming a Monster, the series where I take some of Gran Turismo 7's most ridiculous cars to see if I can tweak them so that a talentless pleb like me can handle them without being killed to death. Like any common ruffian, I'm using a bog standard PlayStation 5 controller, and I have all driver assists turned off, except for ABS. Let's see what car is trying to murder me today. Today we have the Volvo 240, one of my favourite cars of all time. I love it so much I've owned one for 10 years. Although mine does not have a 7.8 litre twin-turbo V8 with 1200 horsepower under the bonnet, but this one does. Wish me luck. As usual, the car has every upgrade applied, including the wide body and the body rigidity increase, but none of the settings have yet been adjusted other than the downforce, which has been maxed, and the transmission, which has already been tweaked to suit this car. The torpedo brick has aftermarket wheels a couple of inches up on the standard size. Larger wheels can improve agility, smaller wheels can improve stability, to a minute degree. It has a front splitter for front downforce, and the Type A rear wing, which offers nowhere near enough rear downforce, but it's the best we have. If you're interested in learning more about aero, downforce, or any other aspect of tuning your car, I have a series called Tuning for Beginners which covers everything from suspension to differential to the transmission. I picked Dragon Trail for the testing ground since it's one of my favourite tracks. The car launched better than expected thanks to a 50-50 weight distribution, however it only made it to turn 1 before launching me into the next dimension. Ow. I got back on the road to chase down my opponents, but I only managed a few more corners before the car shat itself all over again. Oh, for fuck. Since the car's problems were most likely a result of wheel arch rubbing, I increased the natural frequency and the anti-roll bars to prevent the body leaning onto the tyres. I managed to get around turn 1 this time, barely. Bloody hell. The main issue with this car is that we have no diffuser option, so we're limited to 100 downforce at the front and 150 at the rear. Problem is, 150 isn't enough, so the car is too unstable at high speeds. Still, it's better than it was. To improve high-speed stability, I had to reduce the front downforce. I also added some front toe out, which can also help by reducing the car's tendency towards oversteer. This time, the car made turn 1 with no drama at all, and carried on around the rest of the track. It's still a 1200 horsepower Volvo at the end of the day, so it's by no means an easy car to drive, but it's improving fairly dramatically either way. Move, you giant pile of cum. I made several changes next. I lowered the rear to make the car sit visually even to satisfy my OCD. I increased compression since it usually makes the car less unsettled by the curbs. I reduced camber to increase straight line traction. I added more toe out on the front and more toe in on the rear to reduce oversteer all round. And I adjusted the differential. Increasing initial torque can help with stability at the expense of agility. Decreasing acceleration can help with power oversteer. And I decreased braking sensitivity since it usually makes the brakes feel sharper. On a flat track like this, the Volvo 280 was now manageable for the most part. There wasn't much more to do to make the car drivable here, so it was time to attempt the Nurburgring, something I would come to regret. Christ knows how much swearing and crashing happened in my attempts to get this car around the ring, but this is the setup that eventually managed it. I also closed up 3rd, 4th and 5th gear since the Volvo wasn't really using 5th with my original gear set. Right, I'm gonna have a moan now. Whoever decides which engine swaps to add in each update has fuck all imagination. We have a game with 500 cars in it and some incredible engine choices among them. Yet if you went by the recent updates, you could be tricked into thinking there's literally 3 engines in existence: the K24, the Bugatti Chiron engine, and the stupid turbo LS from a drift car. It'd be one thing if we got a supercharged LS from an actual Chevrolet, because at least we wouldn't have 2 weeks of turbo lag to wait for before the engine kicks us up the arse and into the grave. Of all the brilliant engine choices this car could have had, from the Volvo V40 T5 engine, the LS9 from the Corvette C6, the 2JZ, a BMW engine, or even the Cosworth engine out of the Sierra, we get this absurd 1200 horsepower wait 12 years for turbo lag drift car engine. Right, I've moaned about the engine, now I'm going to bitch about the car. The Volvo 240 should not be this shit. It's terrible to drive, and even with its stock engine, it's still not very good. It's insanely unstable and jittery, which is lunacy because the 240 was designed from the outset to be stable, even in Sweden's harsh winters. How do I know? It literally says in the owner's manual. Even when bone stock, the 240's back end wants to step out with no provocation. If the real life Volvo 240 handled like the one in this game, I would actually be dead. This game forces you to run such an extreme suspension setup just to stop this car from murdering you on every corner at this track, even without this engine swap. Meanwhile, there are cars like the Aston Martin DB5 and 1968 Dodge Charger, cars which should be completely hopeless, and they're excellent. Meanwhile, cars like the Volvo 240, the E36 M3, and certain others should be really good, or at least drivable, and they're crap. Right, sorry about that, I'll stop foaming at the mouth now. If nothing else, the fully upgraded 240 on its standard B200F engine will be very easy to drive if you use the setup I've used for this monster. After who knows how many attempts, the Volvo 240 achieved, if you can call it that, a 6 minutes 31. By comparison, a van with the same engine was 4 seconds faster. Told you this car was shit. Keep the stock engine for your own sanity. So, that made me depressed. I hope my settings helped, or that you enjoyed me crying because my favourite car was rubbish. Join me next time where I'm hopefully driving something that isn't bollocks. Thank you for watching, and if you're feeling particularly generous, I would greatly appreciate your subscription. Take care, and ta-ra.